Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg Alba.
And my name is John Humphrey.
In between all this Comic-Con stuff, we found time to watch Dunkirk.
A little time.
Christopher Nolan's latest film, his first film based on a true event, a historical war drama. Even though it has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that.
It's like 92. It's in the
90s.
Yeah.
Even though it's that highly rated, I'm finding this film to be quite debatable amongst every circle I'm running in that has seen this movie.
I can definitely see why this is
divisive.
There's something about this film where I think there's enough for everybody to point out and go, well, yeah, all that stuff's really good, and then there are a couple things that are really divisive that are going to come down to you as a viewer, I feel like.
We do want to make it clear, we did not actually catch this film on IMAX, which was a bummer because we saw 10 minutes of this on IMAX before we went to go see Kong Skull Island, and we were like, this is the way to do it, and we had our tickets, but it was the same time during like when Comic-Con trailers were dropping. At the time we bought them, we didn't realize, oh yeah, that's right, Comic-Con's rolling around, so we're like, we gotta be around for that. We're gonna go watch it later, probably sometime next week or 2 weeks from now, and go on IMAX. That'll just be for us. You know?
So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, keep that in mind, because I feel like I would have probably really even loved this film more if I did watch it in IMAX. Because this movie, to me, is really about all the technical levels of the directing department, of the filmmaking department. Not so much to me about the story, but then that's where debates come in. We'll get into that later. So right now, let's just go over the things that we really do strongly agree on. The tone of this film. One thing I kept asking myself when I saw the trailers for this and seeing that it was a PG-13 film, and I love Nolan films, I do. I was thinking though, what will be different about this specific war drama that he's doing? And there's plenty to be found different about this. And keep in mind too, the PG-13 rating, it doesn't make the film any less effective than what it is. It is like, okay, I can see how this is PG-13.
This isn't a movie you're gonna sit around thinking like, oh, if they'd only made it rated R. Like, you don't even think about it. I didn't. Yeah,
this film throws you right into Dunkirk. It throws you right into the situation immediately.
Right out on the mole.
Yeah, it's a gloomy situation, and the tone of this film was one of the more unique aspects to it. It's a really haunting tone, rather menacing. Like you said, it's very immediate. Even though this film does something that I see, it kind of irritates some people, and at first it was very difficult for me to readjust to. He does kind of that Tarantino thing, and Nolan's sort of done it before with other films. You know, people might think of like Memento or Prestige in some areas, where he hops around to different times. You'll see an event happen, and then suddenly you're in a scene that takes place before that event. You're not being told that with any subtitle or text or something like that to make it pitch perfect clear, and there's no real heads up that that's gonna be doing that.
You gotta catch on real soon that if your point of view is from the beach, then you're in one story. If your point of view is from the air, you're in a different story. And if your point of view is on a seafaring vessel, it's a different story.
That's when it would get confusing, because this whole place is all on the beach area. It's not as easy to pick up on because it's not like you're changing so many different looking locations.
You do have to
pay attention to the weather.
Pay attention to the weather, the time of day. Keep your eye out for subtlety. Catch that when you jump to a different storyline or a different set of characters you're focusing on, the time has changed.
Yeah, and despite it being a war movie that's not R-rated in terms of its violence, it's not necessary because it's not exactly people are getting shot the whole time.
Well, yeah, this isn't a battle, it's a rescue.
It's a rescue.
They're trying to get the soldiers off the beach and back to Britain.
There's explosions that happens. There's a lot of drowning situations that occur in this film. And that all feels very real. What Nolan does so well in this film is it puts you into this perspective of these people. One comment I made to John when the credits were rolling was, it kind of reminded me of how when Mel Gibson does these period pieces, he pays attention to the little details of violent things that can occur. There's one scene where they're just climbing a rope ladder, these soldiers, and even Nolan takes the time to make that very complicated, you know?
Yeah,
you get caught in it, you're like,
you realize the incidental difficulties that movies usually brush past in pretty much every situation. Little details.
Like the harshest conditions you can think of. What could go wrong here? And it's applied.
Not in an overbearing, like, Final Destination way, but in a way that feels very lived in, and it makes you go, oh, like, I feel like the entire point of this movie is to kind of try to transcribe what it was like to be on the ground, you know,
Yeah.
to be with these people in this situation.
Yeah.
And those little touches do so much to drive that home, because those are the things that actually make it a bit relatable, you know?
Absolutely. See, even little touches, like there's like a character in it where at one point two characters are having a disagreement, and this one character, he accidentally gets pushed.
Yeah, he falls down
falls down some stairs. At first it's like, okay, whatever, he just fell a little bit. It's like a small flight of stairs. But he hits his head on something, slices open the back of his head. This isn't even during a battle moment. But it's little touches like that, like, okay, based off where they are, and then if he were to fall down some stairs, something like this could happen. That was all very interesting to me. And while the time-lapse stuff can be confusing, it's if you're willing to adjust to it, it is very effective.
I knew about it going in and you didn't, and I feel like if you know about it going in, it helps.
Oh yeah, it does.
You know, it's because there are certain things that you might be caught off guard with, you might be confused with, and even knowing it myself, there were times where I even had to kind of put everything back into place.
Yeah,
you know?
because this film to me sort of plays out like, you know, a long time ago, I remember saying, I think it was to you, I said, I was like, I would want to do a movie where the whole thing is just one long action scene and then there's stories in between the action, but it's all just about the action scene. And to me, this plays out like one long action sequence.
Oh, yeah.
From beginning to end. It's like one long action sequence that takes the time to slow down, but even it's just dialogue scenes, and there's not much dialogue in this film. But
it's all very incidental.
Yeah, but even in those scenes, it's a very tense experience. It's a very suspenseful experience because of the danger situation. And one thing, too, that I really appreciate about it is because, yeah, I mean, the enemy in this situation is the Nazis, but you never even see the Nazis. You don't ever cut to what they're doing. It's like they're mysterious, and that makes them kind of scary. The villain of the film is the situation, is the conditions they're in, also the time, and the Nazis,
resources,
which you never actually see the Nazi soldiers.
You only
when they're
see
attacking.
the machines.
Yeah,
you see little planes, you see ships and things. You don't get a point of view on the enemy, and that puts you right in with the people that you're following.
Yeah, and I feel like one thing a lot of people are probably talking about, because we haven't all we've really seen are the Rotten Tomatoes consensus on it. I feel like the main thing that people are probably going to be talking about a lot too is what they call dogfighting.
It's like aerial dogfights.
Aerial dogfights. Yeah, the thing that Tom Hardy's main character is involved with the entire time, where he plays Bane again.
Yeah, Chris Nolan likes to put Tom Hardy in a mask, man.
His whole performance was shot in an hour.
I agree. He's a very
got the eyes,
expressive guy.
man. He's got the eyes. Whole face covered up. It's all the eyes.
Eyes and body language, man.
So the battle sequences, the tone, the pacing, the shots of this film, the cinematography is all on a masterful scale.
And the tension, the
play
of tension and release,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Now, I think the big debate that I hear people talking about is the term lack of character. Now, there's a flip side to all this, because I saw some cons with it, and that was one of my first things I was telling you when the movie was done, and then you said some things to me that made me go, well, actually, you got a good point about that. This film doesn't really have character in a certain perspective. It's one of those things where there's not a lot of dialogue. You don't really learn much about these soldiers. You don't have any of the cliche type of
girl back home,
a guy who has a baby along the way, or anything like that. The soldiers bonding with each other type of situation, because these characters are all strangers, and the situation is so immediate in the time frame it's taking place in. While I did feel I could have used more character, when I thought about it later on after talking with you and then reflecting on the movie, I was like, well, these guys wouldn't really talk about anything based off the situation they're in right now.
Yeah,
they're not going to take the time to have these conversations.
I understand why you would miss having character latch onto.
It makes it easier to care about the situations they're in, these soldiers.
Yeah, totally. And I think part of what makes this war movie particularly special kind of is the fact that that's not there. I understand how people would miss it, definitely, but I didn't find myself missing it. You're cutting back and forth between a lot of situations, and because the movie is spending so much time making it feel like you're there and you're just kind of there and everything feels incidental, it feels very natural, and that to me turned into a very affecting thing. There aren't any cutaways to people in offices plotting, plans of attack and stuff like that. You only get the position of the grunts. You get the dudes fighting in the air, the dudes trying to escape on ships, and the dudes on the beach. That kind of translates the slog dialogue, like the stuff that's not the movie is about this situation, kind of.
And I guess the other thing, too, of why this became less of a problem for me, because this was an immediate problem for me when the movie was done. When I look back on the film, it became less of a problem for me because I really feel that the actors in the film provided a full backstory for all their characters. You can feel these are fully fleshed out performances. So maybe the writing and the dialogue doesn't cover their backstory, doesn't really have exposition for you to really lean onto to have you feel this personal investment in these characters. At the same time, you can still feel these actors provided fully fleshed characters. You could see it in their eyes, you could see it in the way they respond to situations. There's a lot of this is choice. A lot of situations these characters get into is, how will I make a choice here? And in some ways, they're kind of like avatars for the audience. Like you said, being in the situation with them, you're kind of just feeling it through your own emotions of how you might respond to it. So the characters are kind of serve as avatars in a way.
That's the point I took away from the way the experience hit me. The storytelling of the movie is in these little moments and is in watching people make decisions and kind of try and read each other and figure out how to work together and when to object and all that sort of stuff. It's not a war movie that has a lot of the traditional kinds of heroism. It's not like, oh, we won this battle. It's like little things that get turned into the things that pull you through.
True.
And every story has those, and every character, every major character kind of gets a moment of significance of some kind.
Absolutely. Like I felt like the two characters who really got to have a little more character to them. I guess like who the main character would be is this soldier named Tommy, who doesn't really speak much in the film. His whole goal is just to keep trying to find ways to get off Dunkirk. Everyone in this movie is a body language performance, and I feel like the characters you got to know better are like Kenneth Branagh's character, but especially Mark Rylance's character. He was probably the standout performance to me. I mean, he's a fantastic actor to begin with, but he's the only one where you got to see a little bit more into how he feels and views things and stuff.
Well, yeah, because I mean, he's got a different kind of story, and he's with two kids for a lot of the runtime, and so that's just a different situation than most everybody else in the movie is in. That's another kind of thing I liked about the stories he chose to tell. Is there's one very solitary story, which is Tom Hardy's story. And then there's one story where you have a lot of changing groups of people and a lot of characters that you kind of know, which is the mole, the beach story. There are a lot of characters in that story. And then you have this one, which is kind of a nice balance of a contained cast and a contained story. It's not too isolated and it's not too huge. And it's about what the people at home were doing too.
Absolutely. And also, kind of give a shout out, Harry freaking Styles.
Yeah!
He killed it.
This is one time where he's like, he did the audition and he had it. And then I saw the movie and I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
The dude can act, man. The dude can really act. I saw the Carpool Karaoke with Harry Styles. I was like, I love this guy's personality. I thought it was so fun. And then you see him in this movie. He doesn't even have that much dialogue, but like I said, every character here, you can feel the actors provided a lot of background for them before they got in front of the camera. And I feel like Harry Styles did the same exact thing. They all seem like real people. That was the thing. It's like, this ain't shot like a mockumentary by any means, but it feels real. It feels very real. Yeah. And the way the tension plays out is fantastic. And the sound design's amazing in this. And a big contribution to that is also Hans Zimmer's score.
Yeah.
This is one of the best scores I feel he's ever done. I know he does like pretty much all of Nolan's films. This one, though, specifically, I think is absolutely one of his best. Even if this movie gets gypped on like cinematography and sound design and all those things, the one thing you cannot gyp this movie on is its music.
I mean, it's a huge part of the mood and the tension of the movie, and I like that Nolan seems to choose motifs, and the motif of the ticking, the clock, the stopwatch is terrific for this movie because the whole movie is sort of about time, or it's one of the major themes is time, and everybody's on a different timeline, and you get to see how the time affects everybody, and that choice is just sonically evocative, and it also makes sense to the story. And then there are also things later on where they bring in almost what sound like synths, like static, static noises.
I feel like Nolan films, pretty much all of them, work better with a second or third viewing.
And I think this will definitely do
even if you love the movie the first time you watch it, like everyone references The Dark Knight, even if you love The Dark Knight the first time you watch it, it's probably even better the second and third time you watch it,
Yeah.
And I feel that way with most of his films. Most of his films tend to play out that way, for me specifically. And I think Dunkirk is meant to be seen on IMAX. And so this review is coming from people who did not see it on IMAX just yet. But even without seeing it on IMAX, I feel like just watching it again on a regular screen, I would get more from it and appreciate and understand it more.
Definitely in its construction.
But I feel like when I watch, because right now I really like it. If I watch it on IMAX, I'm probably gonna go, I love this movie,
That's in an odd way, I'm there with you on that. It's like I really enjoyed this. I got a lot out of this the first time, I feel like, and I was really pleased to see a visual story about action.
Yeah.
Like that's partly why all the gimmicks of this movie work for me, is because it's kind of classic in that way to me. I think it'll definitely come together on IMAX, both for the scope, because just having seen those first couple minutes, in the full frame, I was overwhelmed. The first time, and
it was hard to watch this movie at times and be like, I just know what this would look like on IMAX.
It's crunched. The dialogue is sometimes a little hard to catch. There are times when it's not really high up in the mix, so you really gotta be
There was a couple of times where I had to go to you and say, what are they talking about? There's a couple, even there's not much dialogue, there was a couple of times where I'm like, wait, I'm a little lost right now.
It's the kind of story where even if you miss stuff, you can still grasp what's happening, but it does help. And I think the time things will make more sense. This is definitely a movie that I think takes two. I feel like he just makes those kinds of movies. Part of what I like too, and part of what assuaged that lack of character development, I'd say, is that every person in this cast gets a great moment in the movie.
Yeah.
Even dudes like Cillian Murphy and some of the side characters who aren't that huge are really impactful. Like, nothing is wasted.
When I say, like, the tone, what makes it so unique is this kind of felt like a hypnotic nightmare.
And I mean, a movie will never give you the experience of going to war, but I did appreciate this one for just putting you in there with the people and watching the struggle that's neither as glorious nor as terrible in the same way you're imagining. I've never been in a situation like that, and I gotta imagine the reality of it is a lot less glamorous and a lot more kind of like this. It's just about people struggling on the ground.
Well, yeah, right now we both really like it, but if we watch it on IMAX, we'll probably love it. There's our consensus. Well, you guys see Dunkirk? Did you love it? Is it your favorite Christopher Nolan film of all time? Do you prefer it over Hacksaw Ridge?
I want to see that.
That movie is special.
I've heard good things.
Plenty of character in that film.
I believe it.
Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. John Humphrey on Twitter and Instagram, social media manager of Blumhouse. And check out all our exclusive perks and rewards over at patreon.com/TheRealRejects.